When Santa Monica Studio confirmed that the original God of War trilogy is being rebuilt from the ground up, it didn't just announce a remake, it sort of reopened a chapter, a game in history that helped define an entire console generation. Consider this. For years, rumors swirled around remasters, collections, and quite internal prototypes. Then suddenly it was real. The Greek saga coming back in a very different era than the one it was born in. In fact, the original trilogy, God of War 1, 2, 3, weren't subtle. They were loud, violent, theatrical, indulgent, and unapologetically just excessive. It turned Greek mythology into a blood-soaked opera where revenge wasn't just motivation, it was oxygen. Kratos didn't simply fight gods, he dismantled them brutally, publicly, freaking repeatedly. Now the question isn't whether those games deserve preservations, they absolutely do. The real question is how they should return. Because this is not just about textures and lighting, this is about tone, about intent, about whether you recreate something exactly as it was or reinterpret it through the lens of what the series has become. The announcement was obviously deliberately light on details. The original voice of Kratos confirmed the project is in early development. That phrasing matters. Early development means decisions are still being made, and those decisions will shape not just these remakes, but the identity of the franchise going forward. One possibility is a faithful, visually overhauled recreation, something closer to what Blueprint Games achieved with Demon's Souls. Same structure, same mechanics, modern graphics, updated animation, cleaner performance. That approach would preserve history almost intact, allowing players, to experience the Greek saga as it was designed, just sharper and more fluid. Now, the other possibility, however, is far more radical. Rebuilding the trilogy with the design philosophy of God of War and God of War Ragnarok. Over-the-shoulder camera, weightier combat, seamless storytelling, character-driven pacing, and deeper emotional arc. That version wouldn't just be a remake, it would be a reinterpretation. And that's where things get complicated because the Greek saga is messy, not mechanically. Mechanically it was precise and kinetic, but morally and thematically messy. Kratos was not a reluctant anti-hero, he was a destroyer just fueled by ego, grief, and rage. The games revealed them that. They pushed it, sometimes quite uncomfortably as well. Which brings us to the topic fans won't stop arguing about: sex minigames. It's easy to dismiss them as juvenile relics of a different time, and in many ways they were. Early 2000s action games often equated maturity with nudity and shock value. The Greek mythology leaned into that aesthetic. By stripping the conversation down to keep it or censor it misses something important. See, those moments weren't just there for cheap, provocative meanings, they contributed, intentionally or not, to the portrayal of Kratos as a man spiraling into nihilism. In the first game, while haunted by visions of his murdered family, he casually indulges himself. That contradiction matters because it signals that his quest isn't purely about justice, it's about obsession and emptiness. By the time God of War 3 arrives, indulgences become grotesque. Kratos murders gods who once aided him. He betrays his allies, he ignores suffering. The world collapses around him and keeps going, not because he must, but because he wants to. That excess is the point. If the remake softens that edge too much, it risks misunderstanding the narrative arc that actually leads into the Norse era. The power of 2018 reboot works precisely because Kratos has been that monster before. The quiet father trying to guide Atreus only resonates because we've seen the tyrant who tore Olympus apart. At the same time, recreating everything exactly as it was without reflection would feel tone deaf. The industry has evolved, storytelling expectations have evolved, audiences have evolved. What felt provocative in 2007 can feel quite hollow today if it isn't framed with intention. So perhaps the real opportunity here is not whether those controversial elements stay or go, it's how they're contextualized. A remake allows for nuance that the originals didn't always prioritize. Character recreations, subtle writing adjustments, environmental storytelling that reinforces Kratos' moral decay without leaning purely on shock. Scenes can maintain the brutality while deepening the tragedy, because that's what the Greek saga ultimately is: tragedy. The original games were framed like mythological epics, but they were also character studies as of a man destroying himself along with the world he blames for his pain. Each victory felt triumphant at first until it didn't. By the time Zeus fell, the satisfaction was replaced with something closer to exhaustion. I guess a modern remake could sharpen that emotional trajectory. The boss fights, Poseidon, Hades, Hercules, were mechanically thrilling, but narratively they can hit even harder with, cinematic tools and options, facial capture, subtle performances, expanded dialogue. The cruelty can remain, but the weight of it can deepen. Now, the Greek mythology returning now suggests something larger. It suggests the studio wants new players. Those who started with the Norse saga to understand the full arc of Kratos' journey, not through YouTube summaries, not through lore recaps, but by experiencing it firsthand. We think that really matters. The contrast between the young Spartan consumed by rage and the older father wrestling with restraint is the spine of this franchise. Without Greece, the redemption in Midgard loses some of its gravity. In fact, the key to this remake's success won't be in whether it's more violent, less violent, more explicit, more restrained. It'll be in whether it communicates the fall clearly and honestly, whether it allows players to feel the rise, the corruption, and the collapse. Kratos' journey through Olympus is ugly, it should be, but it also needs clarity. If the developers can capture the operatic scale of the original boss fights, modernize the gameplay intelligently, and maybe handle the controversial elements with purpose rather than panic, this Trilogy Remake could do more than preserve history. It could simply redefine it. Because at its core, God of War's always been about consequences, actions that ripple outward. Rage spreads, power corrupts, love redeems, sometimes too late. The Greek saga is the origin of that philosophy. It is raw, it's flawed, it's audacious, and it's essential. Whether you're excited, skeptical, or cautiously curious, one thing is undeniable. Revisiting Olympus and this era will definitely spark conversation. It will reopen debates about violence, masculinity, myth, and legacy. It'll change the studio to balance authenticity with growth. And if done right, it's not going to dilute the franchise. It will probably remind everybody why it became legendary in the first place. Maybe sometime soon we'll actually get to see some of what they're doing.